Hey there! So today I have a good friend who is willing to talk to me about glitter and answering some technical questions. And he's been in the industry for like 20 years.
That's right.
20 years. So that's, that's some knowledge. So I've prepared cards and we're just going to dig right in, okay? So, Justin. Yes, this is a big question because we get it from not only flooring people, but we also get it from artists and things like that. It's about the off-gassing. Okay, so when you take an aluminum coated glitter and you get it near water and you heat it up, you get some off-gassing. What exactly are you seeing the off-gassing? Are you smelling it? What exactly is happening there? Do you know?
The reaction that can occur with aluminum and water it doesn't even need heat. Aluminum and water cause this sort of off-gassing effect, and it can. And you would see it in various ways. If it were in, say, a sealed package over time, you might see pressure in the package.
Okay, so like it would balloon out a little bit.
Exactly. And you might see some color loss or some color bleeding. It depends on how quickly it happens and how long it's in there.
Okay, so it's one of those things where if you're seeing an expansion, when you open it up, you should be aware it's going to be under pressure a little bit.
Sure.
But it's not necessarily going to kill you or anything like that. It's just going to maybe be a problem as far as looks-wise goes and that sort of thing?
Well, the pressure will build over time as
Okay.
long as it sits in there, and if it's occurring, it'll continue to occur. I can't say at what speed.
Yeah, right.
And and it can cause some color loss. It can cause some color to bleed into the substrate and things like that. It's really a myriad of different symptoms to that.
So when, let's say a person, like a flooring guy, he really wants to use a water-based material because for whatever reason he's not wanting to use epoxy, is it one of those things he can get away with it because it's curing fast, or is it one of those things where just test and hope it works, or what do you think?
You should always test.
Yeah.
You should always test to be sure, but you want to mix it and use it right away.
Okay.
The longer it sits in there, the longer it's reacting. Once it's cured, that process
It's
is
done.
it's pretty much done. I mean, it could continue to
Alright.
occur,
Yeah,
but
that makes
especially
sense.
if there's moisture in the air as it cures, because then you're kind of trapping in a moisture.
Okay, cool. That makes sense to me. Yep. Okay, yeah, here we go. Okay, so my next question is about glitter and heat. So we have fishing lure guys or crafters or whatever that want to heat it up. What's happening to the film? Is it actually melting, or is it discoloring, or like, let's say it's 350, it says it's okay to take it to, and you take it to let's say 60. So you're not like really crazy heating it, but you are going over that recommended temperature. What's happening? Is it a melt or a...
Yeah, it's essentially distortion.
Okay.
It's a distortion of the polymer that the glitter is.
So the flake may get
the flake
friendly
may
and...
destroy, right.
Okay.
And if there's other things, like if you're mixing at the same time, shearing forces, things like that. The coating itself has its own temperature resistance. So if you've got temperature on top of being in some sort of solution, it compounds.
Okay, that makes sense. Obviously, you're not like superheating it, but taking it, certainly over that recommended temperature, you're running into, it's not necessarily going to turn into a gooey mess, but something's going to happen with it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay,
makes sense. Okay, yes, another question was on the biodegradable glitters. The amount of time that it's taking to break down, what are some of the factors in there?
Well, it's the films that these are made of are sustainable and biodegradable materials, and they'll biodegrade in the environment depending on the conditions. It's time-based. It depends on how much bacteria they're in contact with. Are they in a landfill, compost, things like that?
Right, so if like it's sitting out in the desert in Arizona, it's going to be different than sitting in a swamp, in Atlanta or something like that.
That's absolutely.
Okay, so like a more of a water is going to probably egg it along a little faster maybe?
Sure,
or...
bacteria, heat, all these sorts of things, contact with air, they can all play a role.
Okay, good. Okay, so we get a lot of customers who really want ultra-fine craft glitter. and you just won't, it doesn't cut well. So what's kind of the factors going on there? What is it turning into a powder, or what's the story on?
Yeah, it's really not designed to do that. It's a much thicker film, and once you get below a specific size, it just doesn't look right. The ratio of edge to the surface.
Right. So you're just
drastically
losing a sparkle.
Doesn't look good.
Okay.
Doesn't look good.
Okay. Yeah. So when we are playing with like the craft glitters in, let's say the have you ever seen a calming jar where you stick it in water and you kind of shake it and you watch it do its trip?
Yeah.
Some of the colors bleed into the water, some don't. Is there any rhyme or reason to it, or is it just some colors always bleed, or?
Some colors might be weaker. Some of the pigments might be inherently weaker. It really all depends on the chemistry that it's in.
Right.
So yeah, it can always happen.
Yeah. So just again, it's a test thing, but it's not like a known thing, like, oh yeah, the reds always bleed or anything.
Right. Of anything, the reds and the yellows will typically have, be the most sensitive to that.
Yeah, I know. We stuck a copper one in there and it bled and it was beautiful.
Right.
It was actually a good thing.
Right. Sometimes it works out.
Yeah, but the blues, I think we did one with a blue and we're like, oh, it'll be really cool, and I was like, oh, no bleeding.
Right. Blue strong.
Yeah. Okay, so it seems like craft glitter sparkles less than poly. Is it all about the edges, or is it about the surface and the coatings, or what's the story on poly's brilliance?
Well, polyester, it's a more reflective material. It's a flatter material, and it is most to do with the edge, where you've got a 1/2 mil to 2 mil edge in polyester versus 4 to 10 times that.
So if you took the uncut film and you laid them side by side, would you be able to tell the difference between craft and poly? You can.
Absolutely.
Just looking at the film uncut.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is certainly about the edge, but there's also just way more reflection in that film.
Right.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Do you know about how people are using it? When you're doing like fiberglass applications, like are they doing it in the gel coat, on the gel coat? What exactly is happening?
They're typically spraying on. What I've seen is it's typically sprayed on afterwards.
Okay. Yeah. So they've got their beautiful smooth gel coat surface, and then they're treating it like a car, where they're putting it onto a clear coat or something like that.
Right. That's how I've seen it.
Yes. So you, I'm sure, like have talked to silk screeners and so forth. What's the most popular way? Do they want to push it through the screen, or are they laying down their inks and then putting it on top, or is it kind of 50-50?
I've seen it both. I think the majority of it now is mixing it in with their ink and using it. They will get more sparkle and better reflection when it's being sprinkled on top of the screen down area.
Because it's not being coated.
Right.
Right.
It's not inside the medium.
Okay, so when they're mixing it in, are these new inks like these kind of water-based inks?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a mix and use right away kind of thing?
That's what we would recommend, yeah. That's what we would recommend.
And anything extra, just dry it out and...
Yeah, I mean, it could work if you're trying to create a product. It could work.
You just have to work with it and
test it, and get your chemistry right. Yeah.
But yeah, obviously putting it on afterwards, always better, because uncoated glitter's just 1,000 times sparklier than anything coated.
Right, when it's not sitting in something, yeah. And it gets all over the place when they do it.
Yeah, no, I bought a t-shirt the other day, and it had like an American flag on it or something, and I was like, that's pretty sparkly, and of course I put my hand on it, and sure enough,
right.
They hadn't, properly cleaned it off. I was like, okay, right, that's it. Put on afterwards.
Right.
Okay, so this is just a touch on like the iridescent glitters that we sell. They're, when you read the MSDS sheet, it says it's poly, it says it's acrylic. It's, how does that work? Is the film actually a new material that's like a hybrid, or is it a coating thing, or what's going on there?
Those iridescents are typically many, many layers of film laminated together, alternating colors to get that iridescent effect. Okay. So you're laminating and you're joining layers of polymers together.
So I got it. So in order to do that, so let's have like a 2 or 3 color thing, you're laying in those 2 and 3 colors to get that effect.
Oh, correct. Right. You're layering the films to get.
Oh, that's super cool. And the reason why you're getting that two-tone effect is the way that the light's hitting it, essentially.
Right. Yeah,
okay. And that's also why it looks different over black and white, because it's essentially clear and So those colors are reacting differently.
Right, those semi-transparent, so the light's coming back through the particle.
And that's very cool. I didn't realize they were laminated.
Yeah.
That's really, 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 really cool. So like if they're doing, so if you're taking, let's say some of these are colored films or they're semi-tinted, they're like, let's say they start sort of a pink, then they're laying a couple iridescents over the top of that pink.
So there's iridescents that are just the layered films without colorant.
Right.
And then there are others where we then take that film and add color to it. And then it creates the different effects.
It's beautiful stuff. Well, we've already talked about this, but the question here is, why are some glitters heavier than others? Does it have to do with the colorants, the materials, the coatings? What's going on? Like, for example, like, you know, if you're buying like a blue, it might be a pound stands this high. When you're buying a red, it's down here.
Right. Well, a lot of things come into factor with that: thickness of the substrate, thickness of the coating, things like that.
Okay.
You know, typically when you're going to need a thicker coating sometimes to get the color you're trying to get. So that can affect.
So you're like, when you're doing the film, you're like laying down color, and then to get it darker, you're laying it down again and sort of building that up a bit?
Not necessarily repeating a process, but
it just takes more.
Requiring enough pigment to get the
okay,
color.
right. So you're having to lay down like a thicker layer of it. Okay, yeah. So we get customers who are like, "Why can't you make me 50 pounds of glitter today?" And we're like, "It takes time." So how long does it take to cut, like, let's say, a pound of glitter, and does it vary by flake size?
Sure, absolutely. It does vary by flake size. Some flakes cut very, very fast. Other flakes cut very, very slow.
So let's say the ultra fine, which we sell the most of, how much would you be able to cut in, like, let's say, an hour?
You know, it's really tough to say. It depends on the weather conditions. It depends on the environment.
Does it really?
Absolutely. And it depends on the color itself.
Wow.
Everything. It's really one of those things that really just depends. And you're talking about just the cutting process. There's all the other processes.
Yeah. Well, that's ideally like you're taking film that's already made and it's there.
Yeah.
And it's going onto the machine, but
Right.
I mean, it's a long process.
It is a long process, cutting and clarifying of the product.
Right, because once you've cut it, there's a certain amount of, what is it called, sifting?
Yeah, sifting, clarification.
Yeah, so you're pulling out any, parts that aren't hexagonal.
Right, we're pulling out the stuff we don't want
Right.
there if there is any. Yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
it takes time.
It does take time, yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, okay. So we touched on this, but people ask me how the heck are holographic films holographicized? How are they made to look holographic? Is it just another lamination, or?
It's I don't know too much about it, the actual inner workings of how it's
magical.
done. Right, it is. It's very magical, but it is, from what I understand, a type of embossing technique.
Oh, okay. So like you're taking a film, you're coloring it, and then you're somehow going over the top of it with this amazing shine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, that also might explain why it's heavy, because it's really heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So that if you're treating a film and adding another layer and another layer or something, you would be technically adding weight to
That's
it.
right. Or you're not really adding layers to that necessarily
Okay.
when you're doing that.
Just a treatment then.
It's a treatment to the film that
Okay.
causes it. Yeah.
Well, it's spectacular. So we sell a heck of a lot of glitter to people who do it on their floors.
Mm.
So we basically are recommending the straight up metallics, the holographics, the pearlescents, and a few of the iridescents. But they're always saying, what's the best flake size? And I say, well, it's a personal choice. Do you find that there's a flake size that your floor people are using more than others, or is it just kind of?
It is whatever they want the look to be.
Yeah. So we're coining the phrase: the bigger the flake, the bigger the sparkle. I mean, that's true. So, because you're getting more of a surface area for light to bounce off of.
Area, yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if you want your floor to be outrageously huge,
Go with the big
go with
size.
the bigger flake.
Exactly.
Have you ever seen a floor done with the 0.125?
Absolutely, I have. Absolutely, I have.
Were you looking at anything else other than the
It is
floor?
fantastic. You really can't.
We sold glitter to a guy who did, I can't remember if it was the 040. I don't remember. It was he did an airplane hangar.
Nice.
Yeah, in the silver holographic.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, I would love to see it.
I really would love to see
yeah.
it. I don't think you get to see those kinds of people's airplane hangars.
No. To be so lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the question, because I say this and I don't know if I'm being truthful or honest, but guys are like, I don't like glitter. I'm like, well, you're driving around in it. You know, see that really fancy, paint job you have on your car? That's glitter. And they're like, it's metal flake. And I'm like, yeah, all right. So is there such a thing really as metal flake anymore? Or has it all pretty much become the PET films?
There is some metal flake out there.
Like aluminum.
Yeah, exactly. And it's used in certain processes, but the majority of it is the PET based.
I'm right. Awesome. No, I tell you, I'm serious. I'm like, and they're like, really? I'm like, yes. It's just much finer than what you're seeing, in the crafting world. But yes.